We have even more news to break down and discuss today. Learn the updates around imminent signings in David Fofana as well as Andrey Santos. To move on, we talk Enzo Fernandez as one mystery club has made a €100 million bid to sign him now, which has been rejected. Was that club us? Find out later on in today's video. And to end things, we talk club news. Edouard Mendy has rejected a 6-year deal, and we learn news around Casadei's development plan at our club. So there's a ton of things to break down and discuss, but before I get into anything, if you guys want to see an Andrey Santos reaction video for later tonight, all you simply have to do is hit that like button. If I can get over 500 likes in the first hour, I will make it and release it tonight. So I hope you guys enjoy. Get involved in the comments. And to move on to the first story, so let's start things off by discussing Cesare Casadei. Now, these reports came from Italy from a former football player who happened to play for Catania in Italy. His name is Mariano Isco, and he met Casadei at Cobham to interview him. As Mariano says, I started talking to Casadei, then I entrusted myself to Paolo Pisardo, who did the operation, of course, to get this interview over the line. I met the boy in Cobham, and I followed him there. For him, it is a dream basically to sign for us. When I went to visit the Chelsea facilities, I was shocked. As we should know, Cobham is one of the most state-of-the-art training facilities across Europe. A lot of fans have been curious around Casadei, thinking that his profile and how he plays and the fact that we spent big money on him in the summer to sign him should mean that he does get some minutes this season to help out with the team. We may not see that, but if you are a Casadei fan or someone just generally interested around his future and his development, then you might find these reports quite interesting. Essentially, it does boil down to this: Casadei is in the first year of his development plan. Now, to give you guys some assurances, before Casadei signed, he was given a roadmap, he was given a development plan where the club discussed their plans to get him integrated into the first team. And essentially, he's in year one of this development plan. And in year one, he has to do important things like actually learn the language and get used to the city and the culture. I do think we forget sometimes a lot of these players we talk about who are worth millions and millions, a lot of these guys are still kids and they're late teens. You need to feel confident and comfortable in your environment to really express and show your work to the best of its abilities. Right now, the club don't want to burden him. The club want him to get used to his new environment, and maybe next season we can start to see him slowly getting integrated into the team. So based on this news, it does seem like Casadei won't be leaving on loan in January. Instead, he will continue to train with the first team, take part in under-23 games, and of course continue to acclimatize, learn the language, and grow in his surroundings. So for this season, I think in terms of youth integration, I'm only really expecting players like Chukwuemeka, Lewis Hall, and Hutchinson to get minutes for this season. Next season, a lot more pathways open up, and we continue to make further changes in the squad, so let's see what happens. Now, we start off with David Fofana, and the news has been confirmed earlier this afternoon from Fabrizio Romano. Fofana has agreed to sign for us. We've agreed a fee up to the tune of €12 million. And finally, all legalities and personal terms have been met. It's done, it's finished. He is in London right now taking part in his medical. So hopefully by the end of this week, he is announced officially as our new player. But I'm curious as to whether he may stay with us or maybe even get loaned out. Now, on one hand, we haven't really created any infrastructure in terms of this multi-club network we're currently trying to build. So realistically, who could he go on loan to? Now, on one hand, maybe I wouldn't be surprised if he remains at the club where he's playing under 23 games and also training with the first team, getting used to his new environment, and maybe potentially, if he works hard, getting some minutes in the first team. But on one hand, I do really feel like the chances of David Fofana getting like first team minutes, which isn't impossible, but maybe not as likely, really depends on whether we can sign another striker in the January window, with the main man being Moukoko from Dortmund. I feel like if Moukoko was signed, I wouldn't be surprised if Fofana gets loaned out or takes part in the under-23s. So I definitely feel like his first team future is centered around whether we can sign Moukoko or bring in a big forward in the next window. Anyway, if you guys want to learn more about the player, I highly recommend that you watch my reaction video so you can get an idea of how he plays and what to expect. We have some minor updates around Andrey Santos. I've released a video earlier today just going into a lot of detail around his game and his future at this club, so I highly recommend you watched that first, but we have some small reports coming out since. One is confirmation around the final fee. Now, as I said earlier, I thought it was going to be a base fee plus add-ons to take the deal to around 20 million euros. It has been confirmed that we are signing him for 20 million euros. That's going to be 12.5 million upfront with 7.5 million in add-ons as well. Currently, the president of Vasco da Gama is traveling to Rio de Janeiro to finalize the move with us and his agent as well too. And essentially the president is traveling to get this deal finalized and over the line. Now Vasco da Gama are looking at replacements, so there's definitely a need for them to complete this move as soon as possible to reinvest back into their team so they can get promoted to the top division in Brazil. I can't imagine that he remains with them. I can't imagine us loaning him out. I feel like we're going to do a Casadei, which I mentioned about in the previous video, where he'll take part with the first team. He's going to get introduced to the culture and he'll need some time before he really makes his mark. And realistically, I'd expect him to get proper minutes from next season, but that's only my opinion at this point in time. Right now, we move on to one of the big stories that dropped today, and it's time to talk Enzo Fernandez of Benfica. Now for me, the World Cup tax truly is kicking in right now. Some sensational news that has dropped over the past 24 hours. A mysterious club has had a 100 million euro bid turned down by Benfica, who are adamant that if you want to sign Enzo, you must pay the full 120 million release clause to sign him right now. Essentially, when you commit to paying the release clause value, then you don't have to negotiate with Benfica, you talk directly to the player. Then it's up to him as to whether he decides to sign for you or not. So this is where things get interesting. Currently, the biggest clubs in European football are obviously after a player like Fernandez. So that's clubs like Madrid, who I'm a bit surprised by. I'd assume that if they can't get Bellingham, Fernandez may be their next option. Clubs like United, City, Liverpool, etc, who are supposedly one of the favourites to sign him, and naturally us as well too. Now on one hand, I don't think I would be that surprised if we made like a secret massive money move behind the scenes. Realistically, whatever club actually made a bid for Enzo, they don't want their name to be leaked out. They don't want clubs to understand what their moves are or what they're trying to do. You know, when you've got big competition for big players like this, you want to keep things as discreet as possible. But I just would not be surprised if we were to make a move. I just think that we're going to see some massive changes on our midfield. The fact that Kante and Jorginho haven't signed new contracts, I think ideally you get these guys signing deals before January. Once it gets to January, then it's kind of like open season. There have been slight rumours that Kova may feel like he wants a change of environment and scenery as well too. So you go into next season and maybe we've lost Jorginho, Kante and Mateo Kovacic, which would mean that we'd have to invest heavily in midfield for right now. And in that sense, I think Enzo Fernandez would be spectacular. Now I'll tell you guys this, out of Declan Rice or Enzo Fernandez, I am happy with either one. I was the same when it was Rice and Tchouaméni. Either one I'm happy with, because for me these are like the next big elite midfield players in European football. But Enzo Fernandez has been someone that I've been following since I really started to hear about him after his exploits in Argentinian football. In my opinion, I feel like Enzo Fernandez is one of the next midfield greats of our generation. Already the impact he has for his teams is stupid. I mean, since announcing himself in that River Plate team back in Argentina, he was actually on loan until the manager at the time recalled him back to become part of the team, and he instantly played a key part in helping them secure the league title. It's been the same thing now since he signed for Benfica, where he has been instrumental in being that key enforcer in their midfield. And I think recently, I think the whole world has seen his impact at the World Cup, where when he finally became that key star for Argentina, the way their midfield was, the way they played, just completely changed. And for me, that's what great players, especially great midfield players, do. They improve the team, they improve players around them. And when you break down Enzo's game, for me, he's like one of those rare midfield players where he is like a combination of a deep line playmaker that can actually defend like a DM. I think that's a bit of a mad one in my opinion. And if I was to give you guys my personal comparison, I'd probably say he's like an Argentinian Bruno Guimaraes, where I think he does his best work centrally, where he's able to dictate the play, receive from the centre backs, play those line breaking passes. The guy is very comfortable playing in like medium to long distances, which is key. If I have a guy that's dictating my play, For me, you have to be able to play balls off the ground. It makes you more unpredictable. It helps you find new ways to create for the team as well too. And things aren't as linear as they tend to be when players can only play passes on the ground. I think that's too limiting, especially in the Premier League, where speed is so important. So with a player like this possibly available, where you can sign them as long as you commit to paying that full release clause, this guy could be like the new gen version of a Modric, like one of the next European great midfield players. Already at 21 years old, I think his resume is absolutely incredible. So many trophies, so much titleware, so much silverware as well too. He's now recently a world champion after winning it with Argentina, and he rightfully, in my opinion, deserves to be the young player of the tournament after his exploits. I really feel like this guy is someone that you kind of build a midfield around. But it's interesting. I don't think you could necessarily have Rice and Enzo in the same midfield. I mean, obviously you can play them, but I'm talking about finances. Could you afford to sign both in the same window? I'm not too sure. I feel like if you had Enzo, you could have him playing in the middle of a midfield three. You have two box-to-box mids alongside him, and it easily works. Or if you can't sign him, Rice is there, where he's more of a traditional DM who can also play, break up the players as well too. And for me, the magic of having players like this in either a Rice or an Enzo is that it will improve the team around them. Players will play better. They'll receive passes in better angles. They'll have more license to attack now, knowing that they have defensive reinforcement behind them. And my thing is, what if West Ham continue to be notoriously difficult to negotiate with? If the money is there right now to buy Enzo Fernandez, do you take that? Can you say no to potentially one of the best mids of his generation? How do you guys feel about this? Let me ask you this question. If you could only sign one midfield player, only one, are you picking Declan Rice or Enzo Fernandez? Let us know below. And to end things, let's discuss Edouard Mendy. Similar to Mason Mount, he has also rejected a 6-year contract proposal from our club. And if you're gonna really strongly take the reports from The Sun as super legit, they're essentially saying that Mendy feels incredibly insulted by the offer. He's not happy whatsoever, and he wants the same wage parity as Kepa, because Mendy is on 100,000 a week, Kepa's on nearly 200,000 a week, and just from that bit of news right there, Mendy is not earning 100,000 a week, so already that information is wrong. He's one of the lowest earning players at our football club, and you know what, from one hand, we know the rise of Edouard Mendy. He's announced himself in this game at a very old age, and when you consider that he hasn't earned as much money throughout his career as, good players have playing for good teams, you can see why this contract is so important for him, because it's like his first major big contract, but that will actually secure his life, which I understand, because that is one thing every player does. I like to hope personally that an agreement and a middle ground can be found. I personally think that Mendy definitely deserves to be earning around 6 figures, and listen, there's worse players at this club. There's been worse players over the decades that have earned way more money and offered absolutely nothing, so I'm not going to use that against them. At the same time, it doesn't take away from the fact that since the start of this year, this has been Mendy's weakest season for us. He has made some big high-profile errors. We've seen it first Leeds, we saw it first Real Madrid, we have seen it recently, and it feels like he is definitely lacking in confidence. Does this mean that this is the new Mendy and he can never improve? I don't have the answers for that, to be fair, but it's not the first time I've seen keepers at my club also have struggle seasons. I saw that with Petr Cech, and we all saw that too recently with Thibaut Courtois, so it does happen. It happens to the best names like Buffon, Casillas. You can actually go on. So it is normal for keepers to have like a bit of an iffy season. Let's hope this doesn't constantly define Mendy at this point in time. But regardless, I still appreciate him for what he's brought. If anything, he's been so key in helping us secure silverware. His great performances in our cup competitions, especially in the Champions League as well too, where he made outstanding saves versus Benzema, plus a host of top forwards. We've seen what this guy does in terms of his aerial ability inside the box and the presence he's given us, because we never had that before him. And also we've seen his great 1v1 threat and reading of the game. The passing has been a bit of a letdown, and recently his passing has been so error prone, which is disappointing, because when he first signed for us, or his first 18 months, his passing was solid, his passing was strong. So I hope he can improve upon that. But you know what it's like for goalkeepers, like them and strikers, There are really positions where every mistake you make can have massive impacts that other players can get away with if they make mistakes in game. Again, I do feel like based on the goods that we've got from Mendy, he definitely deserves a new contract, and there's actually a reason behind why, because we've signed Gabriel Slonina. For me, Mendy is the perfect short to medium term option that you stick with as Slonina is developing to take over the mantle. That is the best way to do things right now. Of course, players like Diego Costa and Martinez of Aston Villa, of course, if they were to sign for us, not only would they cost us a lot of money, but they would earn way more money than Edouard Mendy. And in that sense, I could see why Mendy could feel that could be a piss take, especially when these keepers have also made their own high profile errors. It's just part of the game sometimes. But still though, I'm not here to make up excuses for Mendy. He needs to find his form back again, and I hope he does. But I'm just here to just like kind of give this guy a little bit of slack in the sense of he's not completely awful. Let's not forget what we have benefited from with Edouard Mendy, and let's hope that his form comes back once he has some assurances around his future and feels a bit safer. So you guys, on that note, I'm gonna wrap things up, keep things moving. I'm NEFC, this is BlueLionsTV. I'll catch you guys later with some more videos. Cool.